Python back then. And that's when I got a chance to apply for Outreachy 2018. And I surprisingly got in. Maybe because of my consistency, because I was not that aware of, I was not that, I wouldn't consider myself an expert in Django, but I knew Python, so I was somewhat able to find my way around. So then after that, I decided to, uh, I mean, that's when I got a chance to do outreach, and I was like, okay, what are the odds of pursuing this as a full time job? So that's when I started applying to open source companies. And again, by fortunate stroke of serendipity, I would say, fortunate stroke of luck, I was able to interview. I failed an interview with Red Hat once, but I then appeared for it once more in the next cohort, like around April 2019, and then they rolled out an internship offer for me around July 2019. So yeah, I've been at Red Hat ever since, and whenever I can, I just make it a point to give back to the open source community. I have attended conferences, sometimes given talks, and gained a lot of knowledge. And to be very honest, I also run mentorship programs on my own, like not paid, by the way. I'm not on TopMeet or any other such platform. So I still mentor students in open source, and I've been doing it ever since. Yep, that's all. I'm not sure whether Nitya is still here because I cannot see her. Mm, no, she's not here. What do we do in the meantime? Uh, in the meantime, you can, if one of you has any questions, you can pitch it over instead of waiting for Nitya, because I'm not sure whether, how does this go? I mean, I never attended such a session. So usually you guys ask your questions, or is just Nitya asking, or some other representative of the open source team asking, or how does it go?
Hi Manaswini. So Nitya just had a power cut, and meanwhile I had a question.
Mhm.
So like you said, you like were an outreachy intern. So how does that work out? Because I've heard that writing a proposal and all of that is a big task. So how do you do that?
Okay. So about it, I remember um, if you're a long-term contributor, it's kind of easy. I mean, that applies for Google Summer of Code, I would say, because the project I was applying for, that project had never participated in Outreachy before, and never participated after the cohort, after the 2018 May cohort as well. So it was the only cohort that the organization participated in. So I was looking for a project. I was looking for a project in the sphere, like somewhat related to mine, and so I decided to go ahead with this Django project that's called Open Humans community. So I started contributing to one of the projects there. Obviously started with the documentation contribution, and then I started diving deeper into Django, learning Django, teaching myself Django. And then I started pitching some ideas to the mentors, and I was in constant touch with them. I used to solve issues one after the other, and picking up issues. And then when the proposal section came, because we didn't have this initial application thingy, it was introduced after my cohort, I remember. So this was not there. So this, I'm not sure about the initial application thingy. But what I was required to do is write a proposal. So I started writing a proposal way before the um, actual submission time. What I did was, I wrote a rough proposal. I kind of reached out to some of my friends who had applied for Google Summer of Code, because no other student in my college had applied for Outreachy earlier. So I didn't have any reference points. I was like, when I spoke to one of my seniors, She was like, she was not even sure whether we can participate in the first place or not. So she was like, okay, you can try your luck, but I'm not sure, I'm not too um, like, she didn't know much about it. So I was like, okay, let's give it a shot. The worst possible thing that can happen is I will have green dots on my GitHub profile, so I'm happy with it. So I was like, let's go ahead with it, and I started contributing. And then when the proposal time came, I wrote a proposal taking into account some of my friends Google Summer of Code proposals. But Outreach, I think, has a certain number of questions that you have to answer, like your past contributions, or how are you going to spend your internship period? How are you going to what other projects have you contributed to? All of this. So you just have to answer those questions in a text format, or maybe create drawings or whatever. Just answer those questions. So I started a Google Doc with the same. I just copy pasted the questions from the Outreachy website, and I started writing answers to it. I remember 21 days before the actual deadline. So, and then when I wrote it, I was able to, form some ideas. And the idea was to uh, add some new data sources to the existing Open Humans platform. So I happened to identify two data sources, like the GitHub data source, or um, the Twitter data source. So I kind of described it. And one good thing that I did was I submitted that proposal internally to my mentors, because I was in touch with them for like more than 2 months. So I had developed that rapport, and I was like, okay, I have written a proposal. Would you like to go through it? So my mentor was kind enough to. There were like three mentors, if I'm not wrong. So they were kind enough to go through the proposal, and they were like, okay, they were able to suggest some edits, and they were like, okay, you did a good job by instead of us waiting for you to send your proposal in the actual deadline thing, at least we have some idea about where you're heading to and what your ideas are. So now we can uh, take a decision based on the other proposals that come in as well. But if you want us to go through a proposal and give you a feedback, we can do it. Because at times you're thinking of ideas under a rock, but you're not really don't even know whether that aligns with the vision of the project altogether, and that is actually a good contribution to the project or not. So having a feedback helps. But again, you have to build that rapport. You cannot just send a proposal and you'll be like, okay, just expect them to help you all the time. The thing is, since I had developed that rapport and I have been talking to them regularly for 2 whole months, including Sundays, so I had a chance to be close to them. And I was like, I just as in a friendly way, I just reached out to them like, would you want to give my proposal a review? I'm good, even if you don't, it's okay.
Hmm.
And they were able to give a review. And after that, um, I was like, but the other there was one other major contributor, if I'm not wrong, and she was from a very reputed college down south. I still remember her name. Uh, um, uh, the thing is, she was very proficient in Django, but I was not, because I didn't work in Django, in the Django sphere before. So I was thinking that, okay, whatever it is, I was thinking that she'll get selected because she was very proficient in what she knew actually what she was doing, and I was just finding my way around. But I guess because of my consistency, that's when even I was equally shocked when I found that I am one of the selected people, and I was like, okay, how did this happen? But then I think that's because of the consistency, because she was coming and going, but she was doing good contributions in that sphere. So, and also she was a year junior to me. So I was like, okay, whatever it is, I at least have some green dots in my profile. I'm happy with it. So I just thought I have nothing to lose. I'll just go ahead. If it happens, it's good. If it's not, at least I leave with some green dots in my GitHub profile. Yeah.
So you said that you talked to them for like 2 months straight, like
Hmm.
every single day. So what were the mode of communications that you took? Like, was it a Slack channel? Was it email? Was
It
it
was a
WhatsApp?
Slack channel. I remember. I vividly remember it was Slack, and I think that was one of the uh, first times that I started interacting on Slack, because I was like, I was
Mm-hmm.
very much used to using IRC. I know it sucks, but because I was contributing to Fedora, and Fedora was using IRC at one point. I think it has switched to some other platform right now. So, but I have had my fair share of failures. I had also applied for Google Summer of Code, and in the same cohort, and I didn't get in because I was primarily focused on this project. I wasn't contributing that. So I, I'm I wouldn't say I have anything negative against these people because I wasn't doing my bit, so I cannot expect something larger
True,
than
that's true.
larger than life, right? So yeah, but I have had my fair share of I also applied for Outreachy, the previous cohort, but I wasn't able to get in because I couldn't
Oh,
understand a single thing that was there. Like the documentation was, it was good, but it was related to networking, and at that moment I didn't have much idea in networking. So I was like, okay, what is this? There were a lot of acronyms that they used in the documentation, and I was like, okay, now I have to Google it.
this
Sometimes
is all confusing.
exactly, some acronyms are internal to that specific project as well. So you have to reach out
Yeah,
to people to ask, okay, what is this? So you cannot just you cannot just go ahead with the normal
acronyms
Google.
and then yeah. So now that you're working as a professional, as a software engineer at Red Hat, so what are the perks and what does your day-to-day life look like? Is it hectic? Do you are you on calls every single moment, or is it relaxed? You are free to work anytime you want. How does it look?
So it's been a little more than, it's going to be 5 years this year, and it's been a long time at Red Hat, and I have worked on several projects. Like the project that I started working with in 2019, that has changed, and I underwent another change and so on. But I would say the environment is relaxed. But if you want to push yourself and contribute to other open source projects, you are free to do that. That is one of the best things that I like about Red Hat, that nobody is going to ask you that why are you contributing to VMware. I mean, VMware is considered one of the competitors of Red Hat.
Hmm.
And I vividly remember during my internship time, I was contributing to a project in VMware. Even that
Okay.
repository read VMware/turn. You get it. So what happened was, sorry, I'm having some I'm speaking a little bit like
No worries, no worries.
now, inconsistencies in my speech because I have some teeth work done. So it's like, so I'm like kind of still getting used to that. So even my mouth is acting crazy because of that. So I, what was I speaking again?
You were telling
Okay.
us about VMware and it
Yeah.
being a competitor, and you were still
Yeah.
contributing to that.
Yeah, so when during my internship, just before my internship, I had started contributing to this project called VMware/turn, the turn project of VMware. So when I was doing my Red Hat internship, towards the end of the day, I used to stay till I guess 7 or 8 p.m. in the office, and I used to towards the end I used to go through my emails, like personal emails. It's okay. I mean, you can go through your personal emails. So because it was like towards the end of the day and there were no other folks in the office, I was like, I was afraid to open that screen in the first moment. I was just standing and I was just thinking to pack up, and then I was like, okay, what is this? They had given a comment on my PR, so I was like, okay,
Hmm.
let's go through it. So I was just going through it, and my manager happened to stand just behind me. Okay, and I was like, it's clearly written VMware/turn PR this created by Manaswini Das. I'm like, so I was not aware of his existence. I was like just going through the comments, and I'm like, okay, I have to make this changes. Okay, I'll do that. So I was just going through it. It was a Python project again. So I was just going through it, and my father, and sorry, not my father. My manager is like, he's just looking at my screen, and I got scared. I'm like, okay, you are you there? And he's like, yeah, go ahead, continue. And he didn't say a word. I was like, okay. Then I actually got. It is written all over Red Hat that you're free to contribute to any open source project provided it has a license, and you won't be restricted even if it belongs to competitors. Okay, that's open source, it's fine. So that's when I realized that okay, they actually live by the words. They do not just say it; they kind of do it in practice. So that is one of the best things about Red Hat. Like even if you're not liking some parts of your work, you want to contribute to something else, or maybe explore a different language
Hmm.
altogether, provided that open source project has a license, you can go ahead and contribute to that project. Nobody is going to restrict you and say that okay, no, this is a competitor's project, and something of the sort. But that is one of the best things. And about the other perks, I would say that leaves are more than enough, I would say. And I don't have to wait for a reply from my manager to go before a leave, because I'm like, I just draw my message, okay, I'm on leave, I won't be returning for the next 5 days. So they're like, okay, fine,
Just
just
just straight up next 5 days I won't be coming, and they're totally fine with that.
yeah. you have to, obviously, if you have something high priority in your plate, then you have to take a responsibility, and you have to at least say that beforehand, because I mean, there are releases every single sprint, right?
Mm-hmm.
There are community releases, there are product releases, all of that. You have to take all of that into account. But be a responsible person. Try to, I would say, on a stretch, you can take a good 3 to 4 days of casual leave, provided you have a family emergency. You cannot,
Okay.
you are not even entitled to explain the full emergency. You can say, I have a family emergency, and go. Nobody's going to actually ask you that, okay, what is your emergency, and so on. But since I have been
That's
working with
pretty
my
well
manager,
done.
I've been working with my manager for more than 3 years now, so I kind of feel obliged to tell him, because he is like a friend to me, and he's very friendly. You can say, I mean, he's the oldest among, obviously, he's the oldest among all the people in the team, but he has the most energy. He'll be like, "Hi, how you doing?" And that much. So he's that sort of a person. Even if you feel down, you can say your personal feelings, because at one point I was suffering from COVID in 2022, and I went through some brain fog as well. So I was like, at that moment I was like, I am not functional and I cannot work. So I told my manager, like, can you just take things off my plate, because I'm not able to work properly, because I don't know, something is wrong with me. I just recovered from COVID, but I'm not able to exactly focus and provide that sort of a deep concentration slash deep
Yeah.
kind of stuff. So but he was kind enough to take things off my plate. At the same time, he gave me some time to recover mentally. And then he was like, "Oh, you're not this person, come on, nothing of this sort happens." I mean, he acknowledged the fact that I'm going through something, but
He helped you
he helped me
get
to
accumulated to that environment again and really pushed you back to your pathway and have a good journey in a way.
yeah, that's so this happened. And one more perk I like about Red Hat is they encourage uh, you speaking in conferences,
Okay.
in open source conference, any other thing, like like this talk, for example. They kind of applaud it. They're like, okay, you're doing something, you're giving back to the open source community, it's fine, as long as it's not affecting your work, of course. I mean, but you
Yeah.
can take, yeah, it's okay to be on a working day but attend a conference. You get it? Like,
Hmm.
that's considered work. If
So,
you have gone as a representative of Red Hat, that's considered work, even if you're not doing anything really on your laptop, but you're on a conference and you're representing Red Hat, that's a work day.
so let's say you are speaking on a conference or attending a conference. How exactly do you look up that these conferences are coming up, or do they just send it out that this is the new conference?
What I do is, there's this website called cons.tech. I'm not sure whether I think some of you, I'm pretty sure some of you might have already discovered that. So that helps you filter conferences by language. Like, if you click on Python, it lists all the Python conferences going on around the world. Otherwise,
Okay.
you can you can join any meetup community. Wait, let me just send that website, because I think it's pretty helpful to go through it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if you are
And
on.
I guess majority of the people might not know this, so it would be highly
Also,
beneficial
you
for
can
them.
you can filter by location, like if you want to go to Germany. Like, if you are too much into foreign conferences, you can do that. And there's one more. Sometimes, if you have a profile, if you are a speaker, or you have a profile on Sessionize, or there's one more platform I forgot, Speaker Hub.
Speaker
These
Hub.
two, sometimes people reach out to you on that profile, that, okay, we are looking for speakers in this peer, do you want us to, are you okay speaking in this, speaking on this
So
topic?
have you been approached?
Yeah, I have been approached. I've been approached, and in 2021, I think that was a significant year for me in terms of talks. I was applying
Okay.
to conferences. I was getting in. I was getting some, like, I also have got a chance to speak at GitHub Universe, but that was the good old COVID times. I was not able to go to San Francisco already, but at least I was happy that I got a chance to speak there. And there were around 5,000 attendees, and it
That's a
was
pretty
it was
huge thing.
super overwhelming for me, but I gave it a shot. And the LinkedIn course that I released last year, it's last year already, released last year, was an extension of that talk on GitHub Universe. So
Kudos for that. But we'll just look up your LinkedIn profile and just talk you and go to that course and just have fun with that.
yeah, it's a very small course, I would say, on Git. If you are into dependency management using Git and you are aware of other dependency management packages in JavaScript, I think you'll be able to relate to it. But if you want to do it in house using Git, then you can use it.
All right.
But just letting you know that one opportunity can lead to another. Like if you're stopping yourself, okay, will I be able to do it? Just go for it. Okay, just do it. You never know what other opportunity will be knocking at your door the next moment you do it. But the thing is, I'm telling this because of the fact that I happened to meet Nitya in the Outreachy event last
Yeah.
year, and this has opened this opportunity for me. So yes, one thing surely leads to another, and you'll be able to um, I believe in fate. So I think this was by sheer, even if it's coincidence, I was able to, at least land an opportunity, like one opportunity on another,
Yeah.
because of the fact that I said yes to some. And some opportunities you cannot just accommodate, I mean, you will know what you'll be able to do and what you'll not be able to do. So I would say just say yes to the opportunities that you think are a good catch. Be it writing a book, be it, maybe creating your first course, or maybe creating your first podcast, or maybe starting a YouTube channel, whatever it is.
So, you have talked about having a blog and speaking at many different conferences. And I also personally know that you have a whole GitHub repository where you store your talks. So, let's say someone is a beginner and they start off to aspire to become a software engineer in an open source organization, let's say Red Hat. So, are there any specific internship programs or any HR people that, as a beginner, someone can just reach out to so that they can get more involved in the Red Hat community?
Um, I can name a few. So I landed this internship opportunity. Mostly, what Red Hat does is it kind of hires 6 months interns for 6 months. So because they'll be able to gauge your performance better in those 6 months, and then they'll be able to come to a conclusion whether you're a good fit for the organization, and whether you're somebody who should be joining Red Hat full time. So I know there is a hiring freeze right now. I'm really sorry, but I hope things get better. But I have also had a chance to go through some Twitter threads on your college, and I was like, okay, this college is not really suffering from any, recession or whatever it is, or any low areas. So yeah, I would say that reach out to people, or maybe reach out to Vidya Raghunath. She used to be that person. Actually, I reached out to her, and she was like, "Okay, we are running a drive. You can maybe participate in that drive, like
Okay.
internship drive. We see that." And there was this online test that we had. They had some DSA questions, and it's like
So
fairly.
you can't evade DSA at some points.
Ah, to be very honest, I'm not. I am I'm very poor in DSA. Okay, but it's given compared to the questions that is asked there. Um, if you have appeared for Goldman Sachs or any other such
Yeah.
fintech companies, it's fairly easy as compared to those. So I remember what questions they were asked. One was asked. It's called related to arrays and linked lists, but it
Okay.
didn't involve many.
Heaps,
Uh,
queues, and the other traditional considered hard
Exactly,
questions.
like TP and stuff. They didn't ask those stuff. Like it's normal stuff, and you'll be able to easily do it. And uh, there were 5 MCQs and 3 questions, if I'm not wrong. I'm not sure whether
Okay.
this has changed because it's been 5 years, of course. But I have had a chance to sit in the interview panels for some interns slash some associate engineers, like entry level engineers, and we also asked something that's related to fundamentals, like. I think that's the case with other teams as well, apart from mine. They focus a lot on fundamentals, like if you have written networking on your
Profile is
on your
so.
resume, then you will have to answer questions like TCP/IP, all of that.
Mhm.
TCP/IP, file transfer protocol, how it works, and what happens when you send an email, all of that. The architecture, all of that. But it mostly relates to, that is what I liked about Red Hat, about the interview process, is that they ask practical things. You get it? Like they'll be
Mhm.
like, I remember being asked this question in the first interview that I failed, by the way, and I kind of tend to remember the questions that I was not able to answer. So I think that's a good way to
That
proceed
is, that is.
with the interviewer. yeah, when it comes to interviewing, is you remember all the questions that you were not able to answer. I mean, obviously remember the questions that you were able to answer, and maybe a little bit of improvement is required. But what I did is I used to write all the questions that I'm not able to answer, and I used to basically focus on that so that I don't repeat the same mistake again in the future interviews
Yeah.
with other companies maybe. So that kind of helped me a lot at getting better at interviewing. So this question was asked. It's called how does magnetic memory work? Like
Okay.
how do you burn things on your disk? I mean, it's a hardware, and whatever you're burning on it is a software. And how does this read write head work? So that kind of blew my mind because I was like, I never thought of it. I mean, it's magic maybe. So I was not able to answer that question. I kind of reached out to my friends as well, and one of my friends was like, okay, this is because he was considered like a very a studious person, so he knew most of the things, especially when it comes to networking, especially all the questions that people are not able to answer. They used to reach out to him. So he was like, okay, this is a difficult question, even I'm not able to answer. But I kind of researched about it, and to be very honest, I haven't reached a concrete answer yet, but I'm still looking for it. So things like that, no, things like how does an email work? What happens when you send that
Hmm.
send button? Or is there a database, or how is it all connected? You get it? They ask very practical questions or related to fundamental stuff.
So, let's say that someone is like working in, let's say, Flutter or maybe React. So, should we be expecting someone to just ask us to make a component or like route the various pages together or something hands-on in the interview?
Mhm. That depends on the team, I would say. But if the team is active, if you're looking for a front end position, and if your interviewers are avid front end engineers, then you should be expecting some live coding. But what I expect as a fresher, I was asked questions like, I was not able to answer again. At that moment, it was called convergence of linked lists, like find the
Yeah.
convergence of linked lists. Uh, that was one of the questions that was asked in another team. Uh, and you'll be expected to write some maybe live DSA, or maybe a live React, or maybe we'll ask you to uh, based on your expertise and based on your resume, we may ask you to do some simple questions, or some complex questions. Like simple questions in the sense, just swap two numbers or something of the sort. But we
Okay.
see that you're able to do it easily, then we may,
Right.
every interviewer has a style of its own. Some people go ahead with from take a top to down approach, like they ask the most difficult questions, and then they see that if you're not able to answer, they'll try and uh,
Tone it down.
tone it down a little bit. And then but some interviews are like, they get started with the easy questions, and then they'll be like, okay, let's test this person's limit. So that's how people do. I do the latter, so that's why I'm telling you. So and some interviews don't listen, because they, based on your confidence, they know you know the answer, so it's no point asking. So it's like, it's different for different interviews. Some people appear so intimidating in the interview, but when you actually get a chance to work with them, you're like, they're the most amiable persons on earth. So it's like, you cannot really think that, okay, this was a khadus interviewer, and if I sometimes people are like,
Sure, sure.
grapes are sour, acha hua nahi kaam kiya iske sath, that person is so sour, and he feels like he's gonna eat me up alive. So, but that's not the case. I mean, people try to appear intimidating on interviews, but they are actually not. Even I appear intimidating on interviews. Because I'm like,
I can never imagine you to be the intimidating interview ever.
I mean, but I try to be as amiable, and I try to be the middle ground, because other interviewers in the panel, they are like super intimidating. They'll be like the most
They'll
meanest people on earth. They'll be like the meanest people. They'll be
and their
like,
poker face.
their voice will be that much. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, so they'll just be with their poker faces on and they'll just be
They'll be
throwing
like,
questions up, leveling it up.
yeah, they'll be like, "Are you sure? Are you sure?" Even if it's the right answer, the most correct answer any person can give, they'll be like, "Are you sure?" And even I get intimidated, because I work with these folks, and they're like, "Is this like a split personality disorder or something of that sort?" Because these guys are the most the people who crack the most jokes in the office, and they kind of lighten up the mood in the office. But they are suddenly like, they switched up roles, and they are like, they're now they are the most meanest people on earth. And I'm like, okay, is this the same person that I'm working with? Because these, I mean, this happens. So, just letting you know.
So a good note would be that people who might interview you might not be the same and mean as they might appear in interviews. So that's the disclaimer.
No,
Is this particularly in Red Hat or any other open source organization?
I think I've also interviewed with other companies, so I think that is the case with other companies as well. Because some of my friends got in some interviews, but I kind of appeared for the interviews in the same companies, and they're like, "Are these guys are very chill, don't worry." But then I'm like, they are chill. If this is chill, I don't know what chill is. So yeah, I think that is the case because. Interviews are kind of, some interviews are very amiable. I mean, they seem very amiable, but some interviewers are not. So I would say a major takeaway would be to know everything in your resume at least.
Yeah.
If you're not confident about certain skill, don't write about it. And if you have written that skill, expect questions about it. And then you're like, okay, I didn't know this. Then that's going to be a major problem. But again, if you don't know it, try to write that question somewhere so that you don't fail in that same or get stuck in the same question all over again. So that is one of the key takeaways for me. That has helped a lot with interviewing, and also create this spreadsheet. I had created this spreadsheet way before with all the
With all the questions you couldn't answer and then the right answer.
for all the companies I applied to, what stage I was like left, what stage I was not able to clear, all of that. And what are my focus areas that I should be focusing on, because I failed in these areas. Like I failed in maybe the networking area, so I maybe need to focus more on networking. And as freshers, if you write operating system, you're going to get questions on operating system. So don't just say that, okay, this was not a part of my skill, मैंने ऐसे ही लिख दिया था. You cannot do that. So just make sure that whatever you're writing on your resume, be it a project or be it sometimes people start questions from a project. Like suppose you have worked on GraphQL more, they'll ask
Hmm.
questions about GraphQL architecture. And
Okay.
people write that at times. I'm like, okay, how do you think that if you have worked with GraphQL, REST, are you aware of the other or the other technologies before REST? Like, do you know? Suppose you're working on React. Um, then do you know why React is so popular? There are certain things that set React apart from the existing frameworks. I mean, there are a lot of frameworks coming
Yeah.
earlier. So things like that. So, and because that is, I wouldn't say that that is like theoretical, but that is about you, how much you have explored and how much you have, whether you worked without React as well. Because at times,
Because HTML might take over React someday. You never know.
no, no, I wouldn't say that. Some interviewers are like, because along with React, there are a lot of packages that make things easier. You get it? But that is why people, whenever they ask DSA questions, they only ask you to write it in Java or maybe C++ or C, because of the fact that they do not have. You cannot use those packages. But with Python, you can use packages. You get it? So that is precisely why they ask you to write in these. That is the case. Very a few years before, like when I was like interviewing, I happened to interview with booking.com, and it was a position in Amsterdam. But I happened to appear for the interview, and they were like, they asked me to write in, HTML, CSS, and vanilla JavaScript. So it was a struggle for me because at that moment I was only focusing on React, and vanilla JavaScript was like Eachel's heel for me at that moment, because I struggled a lot in that interview, and I remember that because I struggled a lot. But that may be the case. Some people may ask you to write just vanilla stuff. Don't use any packages. I mean, they will help you, of course, if you're not able to find. It's like pair programming. If you're not able to find certain things, or maybe you're groping for the exact function, the interviews will help you with that. But
Yeah, because interviews in general are just trying to understand how much you understand something as a concept rather than just judge you on your coding skills.
exactly, because uh, you can just, I mean, as engineers are, I think 50% of our job, or maybe 40%, 40% is an exaggeration. 40% of our job is searching the correct things. You get
Yeah.
like, you may not, you are humans, you can accommodate certain things at a certain period of time. You cannot know everything under the sun. At the same time, you cannot absorb everything as well, because you're not a sponge. Your
That
brain
is true.
can handle a certain amount of memory at a certain period of time. So uh, so it's very even if you don't know it, you have to be very honest with it, like, okay, I don't know this, or maybe I as an interviewer and as an interviewee as well, I noticed one thing, that some interviews don't like you beating around the bush. Like,
Okay.
don't know it, at least know that you don't know it. You get it? Because it's very important to know what you know, and distinguish it, because that will help you get better at interviewing and get better.
In your regular projects as well, because if you don't know something, you'll just be out there looking on the Stack Overflow or GitHub codes.
Exactly. So, yeah. So I would say that. Be as a fresher as well, and as somebody who's been in this industry, things are changing all the time. I mean, new frameworks coming in, new packages coming in, all of that, and you never know what will take over. So be very open to trying new things and learning new things, and be that person. Like, even if you know a lot of things, try to be that, have that learner attitude, just just accept everything that comes your way. Like, suppose they ask you to do Java. I have never
Yeah.
done Java, I'm a front end developer, I won't be doing it. uh, I think that's I'm not sure whether that's going to help you or not, because you never know. I mean, in this era of AI, you never know what job will go next.
Yeah,
um,
that's true.
yeah, so it's better if you just be open to experimenting, because I experiment a lot. Because very recently I was only focused at front end, as in front end development at one point, but then my manager pitched that, okay, we have this Java project, do you want to contribute there? I'm like, yeah, I will be, because at one point I was running away from Java, but then I was like, okay, there's no running away. At
So
least
you'll just face your fears.
yeah, exactly, face your fears and make it your strength, I would say. Even if you are struggling with DSA like me, I would say that try to create a habit, and maybe just try doing some easy things. I mean, you must be knowing some easy things, right? So
Yeah.
maybe just try to derive pleasure out of it. If you derive pleasure out of it, then you are going to excel in it, because that worked for me. To be very honest, I've been able to basically survive in this industry, is because of the fact that I kind of enjoy my job. I mean, there are days that I don't enjoy my job, but I live for those days when I enjoy my job. And I'm like, I was just be sitting there doing this, but I wouldn't say that you should go ahead with it. I mean, I'm a workaholic person, but I'm kind of changing things up a bit, because I do not like this thing, just coding and just uh, not doing anything apart from it, because then you are bored on weekends, right? Okay, what to do? Maybe you'll try to learn something, but I'm somebody, on weekends I try to listen to at least one talk, or maybe
Or just give a talk.
maybe, yeah. But that has not quite been happening, apart from the fact that people like you, very kind people like you, reach out to me. But I'm not actually actively applying to conferences ever since
Okay.
2023, I guess. So because I've been very busy with my new team and all the work that I've been doing. So yeah. So at one point you'll have to prioritize, like, what is going to actually help you. Some things are for your personal branding, some things are specifically for work, and there is a personal branding at your workplace as well. Like, whether you're able to
Hmm.
gain the trust of your employees, of your other teammates or not. Suppose if your teammate, ask yourself, okay, if one stranger goes and asks to your teammate, like, okay, tell me something about maybe Akshita in this call. Okay, tell me something about Akshita, and you have to be that person, so that they will have good things to say about Akshita. They will have
Yeah.
good things to say about you. Be it trust, be it maybe highlighting your strengths, or maybe highlighting your weaknesses as well. So it's very important to obviously know yourself, but also be that person that people can trust on. Suppose they're giving you a job, there are certain qualities inside you, apart from your job, like you may be very good at your job, but you may not be that good at communicating, or maybe something,
Mhm.
to try to identify those areas and try to be better in those uh, spheres where you think you're lacking. Maybe you're not communicating much, or maybe you're not reaching out to the team much, maybe you're coding under a rock, and you're just worried about your own issues. You don't look at other issues that other team members are working on. Maybe that is going to help you, that may be your next team, you never know. So
Yeah.
that
So
helps.
it's not just about your social social presence, but also the presence in your workplace. So you have
Exactly.
to build it all and balance it.
Yeah. So you have to be, I mean, this is something that even one of my manager's manager highlighted this time, that be that person that people can trust on. I mean,
Okay.
trust not in the sense they'll tell you your secrets,
Yeah.
their deepest secrets, nothing of that sort. Like they know that suppose they give you a task, they should be thinking that okay, isko ek mila to I should rest assured that this person will complete it. You get it? You should not be that person that people are like doubtful. Okay, complete kar legi hai वैसे. That's when you know you have to be better at what you have to be better at.
So, you also mentioned that you had a whole spreadsheet of all the companies you applied to. So, there must be a lot of companies if you are having a whole spreadsheet. So, how exactly do you apply to different organizations? Because I'm hoping that majority of those were like open source organizations, and you were applying to their maybe job portals, or maybe just getting some email from some of the recruiters or mentors because you have been contributing there.
Hmm.
So, what exactly were the various pathways through which you went on and applied to those companies? And of course, the roles as well, because as beginners, people don't know which role would be preferred. Someone can just say, like a SD intern is a pretty vague term, but a DevOps intern is something totally different from that domain.
Uh, the job sphere is kind of changing. I'm not sure whether these steps, whatever I give right now, is. I think some of it is relevant, some of it may not be. So at that moment, whenever there are certain companies that actually reply to job portal, applications. Very few companies, I would say. I remember applying to Postman, applying
Okay.
to Postman, and I think that was one of the very few companies that reached out to you just not on the basis of referral, but on your job portal application. And they kind of reached out to me, and they were like, okay, we want to rope you in for an interview. And I guess I went till the second round or third round. But what I used to do is also I used to reach out to people. I used to reach out to some of my friends. Some of my friends were already placed, and some of my friends had very good
Okay.
network in the open source communities. So I would say that I used to apply to everything. I didn't put any filters, like if it is open source, then I'll apply. If it is not, as a fresher, you're desperate, okay? As a fresher, kuch bhi mil jaye, okay? So I used to apply for both open source and non-open source companies, and I'm like, okay, jo bhi mil jayega. Preferably open source companies, of course, but to be very honest, unless you're actively attending meetups and conferences where the company folks are coming in,
Okay.
there are not a lot of openings. I mean, you'll have to reach out to the people, maybe talk to them in person and create that impression so that they will be able to refer you, or maybe let you know about internal openings that is not there on the jobs portal or something of that sort. So,
So, when you say that attend meetings, so do you mean that attend the job fair kind of meetings or the community based, like let's say if someone is trying to go for a job in CNCF, so CNCF Delhi type of meeting or organization?
uh, I would say that go for community events.
Okay.
Job fairs, to be very honest, job fairs haven't helped me as much, so not a good advocate for job fairs. But I'm not sure whether what's the case now, because I happened to attend. This is unpopular opinion again. I attended a GHCI in 2018, and I didn't have much luck with that. But some people reached out to me
Okay.
with some, maybe I landed a few interviews, but they look for the creamy layer. You get it, like maybe colleges of your reputation, like they were looking for students from affluent colleges, like, or
Okay.
maybe colleges where there is a good cutoff and all of that. Mostly, I remember even Nike had a booth there, and some other Morgan Stanley had a booth, but all of them were looking for IIT engineers.
So the tier one level completely.
Yeah, exactly. So I didn't have much luck there because I am from a tier two city. So, but I studied in a government college. Like we had I was of a, like, not very decent, but maybe a little bit less than a decent kind of cutoff. We have this. I mean, among the government colleges, it's like the top college in Odisha, in my state. So
Okay.
what another thing, the next part of your question is what we should be applying for as freshers. What I used to do for is I used to look for any JavaScript developer position. You will have to go through the roles and responsibilities and all of that, and you think that that's a good fit and you'll enjoy that, go ahead. Unless, but I would say that go ahead for these specific roles unless you're extremely passionate about it, don't go for it. If you're just going for it just because that's trendy, that's not going to work, because they are
Mm.
going to ask questions that not the world knows. You get it? So if you're extremely passionate about DevOps, go ahead, and maybe you've done some work around DevOps, or maybe contributed to CNC, you've contributed to Kubernetes, or maybe been the release engineer, I think that works to your favor. But that's not the case uh, with other positions. But with SDs, if you're very good at DSA, or very good at some companies don't ask DSA. So if you're very good at DSA, then you can go ahead and apply for SDs. But I think why companies are focusing a lot on DSA, because there is no other way to actually gauge a person's expertise,
That is true.
because they'll be like,
Basically, your problem solving skills is
exactly.
sort
So
of checked through that.
yeah, so you can see that booking.com didn't go for a DSA round, but it went for something like creating I can say it's like creating an auto suggestion with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, like how to
Okay,
design.
so like a ML version, but in HTML, CSS,
Yeah,
like
but
an auto suggestion.
no ML is just it's random person. Like suppose you write something like M, it's going to match with all the things in your database or in your array that has
Okay,
M, and that is going to create an array for you, and just you're going to list it just below the text input,
okay,
just like what you see at in Google. So try to analyze that and try to think about it in that perspective. Like the problem solving doesn't necessarily mean only DSA, but it also means stuff like this, creating an auto suggestion features, creating a maybe a spelling feature, maybe something in the Google Doc. Like suppose you're writing something and you did a typo, it is going to highlight it, like,
yeah,
but it is highlighting it based on the fact that it is creating some matches with an existing dictionary or an existing database.
yeah, because a lot of those times the Hindi words are also highlighted, or even someone's name is also highlighted.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
So that is the case. So it's very important to be that to take interest in these peers. Like doesn't mean only DSA, but DSA is an easy way to land a lot of interviews, I would say. So I know it's a sad fact, but that's not the case with front end. I would say some especially open source companies don't go ahead with DSA. At times they do, but I have seen many people on Twitter saying that I am a front end developer, but I didn't answer anything related to DSA in my interviews. But again, you have to be very, very lucky for that to happen, because interviews are like that. It depends a lot on your luck, depends a lot on your interviewer. It depends a lot on fate as well. So earlier, I didn't used to believe it, but after giving a certain set of interviews, I'm like, okay, it was my bad day. I mean, that's the only way to, just forget it and,
yeah,
go ahead and, buckle your shoes and, okay, next interview, I'll just, nail it. But yeah, I would say that as a person who's not sure about what you have to do, I'll say maybe try and reach out to SD positions. But if you're extremely passionate about it, and you've worked on this peer, and you think that I think this is a good position to start, and a good maybe, and according to the roles and responsibilities, if you think that it's a good fit and you'll be able to contribute, then go ahead and do that. Otherwise, just go ahead and apply for SD positions, or any other generic positions, SWE positions, or I think there are other, like software engineer positions.
yeah. They're like SRE, I get.
Yeah, SI.
So SRE, yeah. So that's the reliability as well.
But if you go
Yeah,
through the roles and responsibilities, sometimes they ask certain things like, this is a plus, this is a plus, and all of that. They mention that. So if you think that you are somewhat also, I mean, you should not be restricting yourself. I mean, as women, we are hardwired to only apply to companies where we tick off all the check
yeah.
boxes when it comes to your qualifications, but do not do that. Even if you tick off some of it, I would say apply it, because they are going to reject you anyway. So why self reject,
So
if
is there like a
they're going to
minimum
reject.
criteria? So like let's say if someone is asking for like let's say 100 different skills.
Hmm.
So when would you think that this is a good apply? Like when you like agree with 70% of it or like 50%, what's your criteria cut?
When I was a fresher, I used to apply for only the positions where I used to fulfill all 100%.
Okay.
But that didn't help me a lot. But when I started interviewing people as an interviewer as well, that's when I realized that they need not know everything under the sun, but at least the things that they have mentioned in their resumes. At least if they're okay with it, then at least you as interviewers, I started as an interviewer, I started judging the person's curiosity. You get it? If a person is
Okay.
curious, they will learn everything, whatever you give them, whatever you throw at them. Even if they haven't studied it ever in their life, they are going to do that. So we gauge a person's curiosity. That's why we ask some questions like, what is event loop when it comes to JavaScript? Because that is the main thing. That is what sets JavaScript apart from other languages. It's a single
Yeah.
threaded language, but it's like a very common question when it comes to JavaScript positions. Like everybody asks you about event loop. So things like that. So that kind of we are able to we are able to gauge whether, if you know event loop, that means you have learned about it, you're curious about it. I know it's just a simple concept, and once you understand the concept, it's good to go, but at times that will help you understand some anomalies in your code in the future. You'll be like, okay, ये क्यों आ रहा है,
Yeah.
ये क्यों पहले एग्जीक्यूट हो रहा है, ये तो बाद में लिखा है, ये synchronous नहीं है क्या, all of that. So that is going to give you a lot of idea if you dive deeper into the fundamentals.
So as a fresher, they're going for people who have the passion and curiosity rather than the expertise at a young
Exactly.
stage.
I mean, that is the case in my company, but that is not the case in all the companies. So I would say it depends a lot on luck. But I would say if you have written something, be well prepared.
Okay.
Some interviewers are kind enough, some HR personnels are kind enough to mention that, okay, we are going to, this first round is going to be DSA, second round is going to be system design, whatever it is. System design is not something that you'll be asked though, but maybe second round is going to be just a general managerial round. Some people are kind enough to do that. So I would say if you can ask it, you can go ahead and ask it. Some people just keep it cryptic. They're like, क्या यार 2 दिन में पढ़ के थोड़ा ना कोई engineer ban jata hai. So yeah, but some people are kind enough to say that. So I would say that if somebody is scheduling you for a round of interview, if that person is an HR personnel, you can ask that, okay, what do I expect from this interview, or
Okay.
how many rounds are there. Maybe in the first round itself, some people have a conversation with you. That's when you can ask. That's the best time to ask the, what's the interview process look like, and what is the next career path, or what is the scope of growth in this role.
But I guess a majority of the interviews are lining up towards first round being the DSA round. So how
Yeah,
exactly do we approach people in that stage? Also, we have a question from Ayman, so Ayman, we'll just get back to you in a second.
yeah. uh, about DSA, how do you approach DSA?
No, no. Let's say you're saying that ask people in the first round itself exactly about how many rounds there will be and what kind of questions that you can be expecting, whether there will be system design ones or the operating system ones. But majority cases may now we have DSA rounds.
Yeah, yeah,
So that's not really something that connects you with someone else, right, in the company.
yeah.
So how exactly do we approach that, or should we just shift it to the next round?
No, no. I would say that I mean, I have a few of my friends who are interviewing as well right now. I mean, they have 2-3 years of experience, maybe, or maybe similar to mine.
Okay.
So sometimes the HR persons reach out to them and have a first chat at least. They talk to you first, and then they are like, okay, I'll be sending you this round. But I'm not sure that's the case with freshers or not. But that was the
Yeah.
case with me back then as well. I mean, there were some very kind people who reached out to me first. They kind of had a first conversation, maybe 20-minute, 15-minute conversation with me, and they were like, okay, I'll be sending you the test link, kindly do that. And if you want to get past it, there's no other easy way. I would say you'll have to practice, you'll have to get into the grind. But if you're not okay with interviewing for such companies, there is this repository. I'm not sure, I think some of you might have already discovered it, and I can expect this from you. It's called interviewing without whiteboards, I think, something of the sort. They are this repository where all the companies who are hiring without whiteboards is there. Suppose uh,
So basically, no DSA bar there.
exactly, it's like,
Purely skills.
not my forte, it's not working, and I'm not going, even if I put all my efforts, all my blood, sweat and tears, it's not going to happen for me. That's when you can reach out to these companies. But as freshers, I think I mean, that is the only way. I mean, it's sad, but that's the only way that they are going to gauge your problem solving skills. So I'm afraid, even I was not good at it, and I still think that I'm not good at it yet. But maybe know the basics at least. Like, I was able to get past the DSA round in Red Hat, because I considered it because it was like just array manipulation, string
Yeah.
manipulation. One of them was I guess related to maybe some simple problems with a, a tree or something of the sort. So I would say just start with the basics as of now. If you go for big companies, they're going to ask you big questions. Like Google, Microsoft. I mean, you have cracked Microsoft yourself, so
Yeah.
you know how the interviews are.
Yeah, they are like quite cryptic when it comes to DSA questions. So they'll not just
You
be
cannot
judging
just
your
find those
DSA skills,
questions
but
on the
yeah,
internet.
they would even
My
ask you to
suppose
improve
in
upon it.
Microsoft. Sorry.
They would even ask you to like improve upon the question that you have understood, and then just ask you to code it and improve the code over and over again.
Exactly. Yeah. It's optimizing, like maybe reduce the time complexity, space complexity, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So there's no easy way, I would say. थोड़ा तो करना पड़ेगा. But if you're not okay with it, you can go ahead with companies that do not speak a lot of, depend a lot on DSA when it comes to hiring candidates. But it's very difficult to find these companies as well. So some companies may not be using DSA at first, but suddenly they have around 20 people and 20 folks, maybe startups and all. Suddenly they'll introduce this DSA. Like this is the way to filter candidates. You get it? So yeah. I know it's sad, but you cannot possibly escape it. There's no other way other than facing it, I would say.
Right. So I have one last question for you, and then we can switch to people asking their doubts. So my final question to you is like, majority of this audience is like pretty new to the open source communities. Like I know Nikhila here is also one of the outreach interns, but we're still pretty new to it, right? So our experience and expertise here is not like as long as you have been in this industry. So let's say if you had to start again and contribute to Red Hat or let's say some other organization, how exactly would you approach it and go for it?
Okay, as somebody who I would say that I'll maybe reach out to people on LinkedIn, attend a lot of meetups/conferences, and maybe try to get referrals from those people. Nowadays, nothing is working without referrals. I mean, I'm not,
Okay.
not even sure whether Postman website are they still reaching out to people on this. And there's one more company that was hiring just on the basis of their jobs portal application. It's called platform.sh. It's not an Indian company though. I'm not sure again whether they are still hiring through that. But I would say that that's the way to go. As a fresher, I would say go ahead and maybe reach out to people. I mean, I get a lot of DMs right now on LinkedIn. And sometimes if I have the time, I kind of refer all in one go. You get it? Okay, give me the job IDs and I'll refer. So I would say be on the lookout. Like this is going to take a lot of time. You're going to send out at least hundreds or 200s or maybe 400 or 400 applications, and then you will land an interview right now. Given the current market scenario, it's pretty difficult to get a job or land an interview. I'm very much aware of it. So
Yeah.
things are not the same as it was when I was interviewing. So I would say apply jahan pe ho sake, left, right, and center. Just apply everywhere, and also reach out to people on LinkedIn and maybe try to develop that thing. And meetups and conferences actually help a lot because people get a chance to talk to you in person. And
Hmm.
that's when you're like, oh, if suppose given a person is giving a talk, go ahead and talk to them. Maybe you have some doubts that you were not able to ask during the Q&A session. Try it and go ahead and talk to them, and maybe try to ask them about, I mean, people have approached me in this peer, and some people have created that impression that I'm going to try to help them at least, or maybe try to land them some other interviews in some of my friends' companies.
Okay.
Very
So
important.
they just directly approached you after a talk session and they just asked you straight up for a referral.
Yeah, this has happened with me. But if I see that curiosity, I'm going to do that. But just if
Okay.
you're asking, if you're going to throw me a general question, that's when I know that okay, this person is asking me a general question. I'm not sure whether. So you need to know those exact questions, like suppose related to the talk. Then you're like, okay, is does your company work a lot on this peer, or this is like a small part of what your company does? All of this. And if I see if also that based upon what questions the person asks, maybe in the Q&A round publicly or personally, that's when I'm like, okay, I should help this person because this person I think is talented and needs to land an opportunity real soon. I cannot just afford, I mean, I cannot just live with the fact that these people are not getting jobs when they are
Yeah.
this talented. You get it? So as freshers, it's very important to create that impression. And not don't just ask questions just for the sake of asking it. Try to be very specific. Try to think from their perspective as well. If how why are they going to help you? Because we
Yeah.
we just met, we're just random strangers. If I don't see that passion, that drive, that curiosity in you, or that talent in you, I wouldn't want to go that extra mile for you. But there has been a lot of cases when I have went an extra mile, even if I don't see a lot of you know I don't see a promising candidate, just because of the fact that because of the current market scenario maybe. But when you get that opportunity, try to leverage it. If I am
Yeah, so basically, when you go out to a networking or a connecting space, you actually have to put yourself out there and not just do it for the sake of doing it.
exactly, so you cannot just. And what I do, what I've known is, many people as freshers, when we ask you to introduce yourself, everybody says their college name. I mean, in your case it will help. But that may not be the case for other colleges, you get it? So that's the first thing that people do. But it's kind of, to be very honest, interviews don't listen to that. They'll be
Okay.
like, okay, you're studying this college then. So it's very important, if you have done something apart from your academic work, like maybe contributing to open source, or maybe reaching out, maybe organizing meetups and conferences as well, something
Okay.
of this. Try to highlight that in that 1 minute that you're describing yourself. This is something that I've done apart from academic work. That also helps at times, because at times some people are interested, maybe a devril, like people like a devril position, they're interested whether you have spoken at conferences or not, or whether you have whether you can live code while talking or not, all of this. So try to highlight those things as well. Just don't mention your college name and these are the stuffs, and I secured this much CGPA, nobody cares about it. Trust me, I'm sorry to say, nobody cares about your CGPAs. I mean, if people have nothing else to look out for, maybe you are just an academic student and focus mostly on academics, that's when people are looking at your GPA,
Yeah.
because there's nothing else to look at. So but that's not, I mean, their GPA, doesn't matter, to be very honest. I'm not interested in it as an interviewer. Even I noticed that I'm not paying attention to certain stuff, but I'm paying attention to certain keywords that you're mentioning.
Yeah. So like someone can have 7 or 6 CGPA, but great skills, so that person would be more preferred rather than someone who is like a 9.5 CG person, but not good with the concepts and things that they have put in their resume.
Exactly. So this is basically applicable, mostly applicable for off-campus interviews, I would say. And on-campus, they are mostly going to focus on the creamy layer, the CGPA wala layer. But I didn't have much luck in that as well. So I was like, okay, I'll do it off-campus. So I landed this opportunity off-campus. And Red Hat doesn't, as of now, Red Hat hasn't hired on-campus yet. So
Okay.
if you're looking for off-campus interviews, then this is the way to go.
All right. Thank you, Manaswini. And let's open the session for the audience if in case some of you have any doubts. Hmm.
I think one of you had.
Hi, ma'am. Hello, Dee.
Hi, Eamon. Please ask your question.
Yeah, ma'am, I had a question. We talked about how, passion and enthusiasm is considered while an interview, while you're considering an interview. But again, there's a process before the interview. When it happens, it's the application process and get the resume shortlisting process. So I was wondering, like, how to ace that? Because again, sometimes what happens is you don't even get to go to the stage where you have to give the interview.
Yeah, I know that. I've been there as well. So what I did was, you must be having one resume at least, version 1, maybe version 0.0, whatever it is. Try
Yeah.
to reach out to some of your good friends who are in this peer. That is the first thing to do. I've reached out to some of my friends who were like, you know, some people, I know how it is in colleges. Like some students are like, usko pata chal jayega maine ye kiya hai. But there are very good friends. There may be some friends, or maybe some people that you trust, and maybe they may be strangers, but at least you think that they are, at least they can help me in this peer. Maybe they have a better resume as compared to you, so that is a whetstone for you to measure. And if that person is not willing to help, that's fine. Try to reach out to people, random people on LinkedIn. Some people just provide resume tips, and maybe on top meter, maybe, or some other people. I do resume reviews for free. So, so I kind of uh, ask people to send their resumes. Once they send their resumes, I'll ask you to fine tune on certain things. I did that with a few of my friends. I have reviewed their resumes as well as they reviewed mine as well. Happened to me. I know this is going to be very weird, but this is going to be a little story that I'm going to share here. So I used to like as an invigilator. They reach out to college students for this. They do this for schools. So what happens is when you are at spell B, if you are an invigilator, you need to be very clear with the instructions. You get it? And this is a talent. This is a talent that people speak very less about, but it's very important to state clearly. This is going to be a very important skill for you when you work as well. If you're not able to express what problem you're facing, then that's as good as creating miscommunication. So I happened to connect with someone from IIT Bhubaneswar, but that person was a year junior to me. But he seemed to be very good at English. So at one point, he used to chat with me at that point, and then I'm like, he used to be like, "Didi, kya kar rahe ho?" All of this. Then I was like, okay, I'm not landing in interviews. I wasn't supposed to say that to be vulnerable to him, but suddenly I was in that state. I spoke about this to him. He's like, "Would you mind if I have a look at your resume?" So that's when I was like, I know some people may think that okay, junior hai, kya janta hai. But the thing is, he is from a good reputed college, so he has seen a lot of resumes in his college. So he will probably be able to use that knowledge for your help. So he mentioned some changes, and I kind of had some dedicated hourly sessions with him every weekend for like 3 weeks. And I fine-tuned my resume according to what he was saying. He just asked me to highlight certain stops and maybe move some sections higher, lower, something of the sort. Because as interviewers, even as an interviewer myself, I skim through it very fast. So I just look for a certain keywords, and I was like, okay, ye puchna hai isko. That's it. So it's very important to highlight the most important things in the first few lines, because you never know if they are going to get past those. If it doesn't interest us, it doesn't work to your favor. So he just made me highlight certain keywords, and that worked wonders for me. Just made it bold. That's it. And it worked wonders for me. It worked wonders, and I was able to at least land interviews in that sphere. Although I cannot guarantee that my resume was exactly ATS compliant, but that is why having that connection, reaching out to people personally, and reaching out to people, maybe random people on LinkedIn who provide such tips and who are ready to review your resume. It's very important, because at least one person has seen that resume, and if that person thinks, suppose I'm going through your resume, I'm like, okay, I highlighted certain things, now I work at a company, or at least I have a few friends who work at a company. There are many friends who reach out to me, are like, okay, do you have any other Java developer in your network, maybe a fresher, whatever it is. So that's when I can, if I have gone through your resume part by part, at least for your benefit, at least I remember, okay, this person has worked a lot on Java, maybe I'll be able to put both of you in touch. So it's very important to go to that stage where you at least have a human review your resume, not just go through jobs portals. That's when jobs portals fail miserably, I would say. Some people don't know stuff, but they just, in order to be ATS compliant, they just write all sorts of things, but that is going to help you clear that resume round, but you're going to fail miserably in the interviews. So be very mindful about it. So I would say that building those personal connections is going to help reaching out to people on meetups and conferences is necessary for this reason, because if you develop a personal connection and you are able to reach to a certain level that you are okay to ask certain questions, like, okay, what about, how can I
And of
improve
course, the referral part would come along with that.
yeah. So and also one more thing that I notice is when people ask for referrals, they write huge big messages. Nobody goes through that, I'm sorry to say. Just highlight the most important things, just a single paragraph, maybe a link to your lead code, or maybe your GitHub profile if you have a lot on your GitHub profile, or maybe code forces, whatever it is. Just try and highlight, I'm looking for a position in these things, I'm good at these things, um, and these are my profiles. That's it. Nobody is going to go through the whole. To be very honest, I skim through it.
Yeah.
I At first I used to read, but now I don't have the time to read. I'm like, okay, what is this person good at? Okay, I'll just, because this is going to because everybody doesn't have the time to go through your full message. So try and highlight only the essential stuff, and if possible, write things like, as students, I think everybody has written stuff like student at this university in their profile already. That helps actually, because people don't have to go to your profile and see whether what you have done, where you are a student at. So if you are a student, mention that in your in your what do you call that, that bio itself, like small bio that you have in LinkedIn.
Yeah,
uh,
the first description about line.
I think Nitya is a very good example here. She's done SWA at Microsoft, this. She has done given a like a slash or something of the sort, and provided by that, after that she has just mentioned student at this university. You get it? So that's like, okay, this person is already a student. So the full sentence like I am studying this at this university is not gonna help, because I'm like मैं ऊपर देख लूंगी, हाँ ठीक है, this college, हाँ ठीक है, fine. Sometimes college helps, sometimes it doesn't. ठीक है? So if you are a student, mention that there itself कि मतलब लोगों को टाइम वेस्ट नहीं करना पड़े वो प्रोफाइल जाके देखने के लिए पूरा.
Does
I
this answer your question, Ayman?
Aman.
Yes, ma'am, it does. Thank you so much. Ma'am, I had another question. Is there any ideal number of projects, like if one should have at least three or four, or if they only have one project but it's very good enough? I mean, again, good is it's a very subjective answer to it. But yeah.
Um, I would say rather than the number of projects, we focus on how recently you've done it. You get it? Uh, Suppose there is a lot of gap between projects. As a student, there may be this thing, but we kind of focus a lot on what is the most recent thing. Suppose you've done 5 projects, don't write all 5 projects. Nobody's going to go through that. Try to write 3 most important projects. Okay? And that's when people will start asking questions, or when you're already in the interview round, that's when you can highlight, okay, I've also worked on these peers. You know, and I'm open to learning anything. And if you've worked on different things, sometimes it works to your favor, sometimes it doesn't, because people will be like, okay, ye to, she keeps jumping between domains. But that's not the thing. As a student, that this will just highlight your curiosity, and you're okay with anything that comes your way. Suppose you want to code in JavaScript, you want to code in Python, Java, whatever it is, you just take everything that comes to your thing. So even if there are 3 projects, if it is very old, we are like, acha, does that person still possess that skill that that person used in that project? So I would say that try to make it as recent as possible, as people because it's very easy to ask questions, and you'll be able to answer questions if it is recent as well. So I would say that focus more on recent projects. Even if you have nothing in your resume, and you think that, okay, I'm not landing interviews, I'm not doing things, at least have a side project where you're focusing on maybe trying to learn something. Maybe try to learn things as simple as Flexbox, Grid, stuff like that. As a front end developer, that helps a lot. So that is going to help you in case of assignments as well. I hope this answers your question, Emma.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so Mehak, you can go on with your question now.
Ma'am, I wanted to ask, like, does having projects in only one domain leave a negative impression of you? I only have ML projects in my resume till now.
No, I think that is going to work to your favor.
Yeah, that shows your expertise rather.
Yeah, that will show your expertise, and at the same time people will be like, she's neck deep into it. So they'll be able to maybe if someone is just reviewing your resume, they will be able to contact you, or maybe put you in touch with people who are working in this sphere, or maybe who are looking for engineers in this sphere. So I would say that even if you are just exploring, it's fine. If you're focused on one domain, it's fine as well. Given the current scenario, there is, I think, a lot of opportunities for you as an ML engineer, because
Hmm.
everybody's just ML and AI. Everybody is just into it. So I would say that's a very good place to start, and that will work to your favor. But you
All
have
right.
to be on the lookout for the right opportunities. You get it? Try to look for data science, a data science internship, or data science engineer, or data engineer is fine as well, but that's kind of a bit different from data science. So maybe ML engineer. Try to look for certain positions where your profile will stand out. You'll have to gauge and make that match between your resume and that job
Job
description.
opportunity, yeah.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
Okay, Nikhila, please go on ahead.
Hello, Manaswini ma'am.
Yeah. Hello.
Thank you for sharing your valuable experience. I really wanted to know about it. Like we met during the Outreachy 1000 year celebration,
Oh, that's great.
but उस टाइम like पूछ नहीं पाया आपसे. So my question is, can you share about your experience as a speaker when you spoke for the first time in a conference?
That was so long back. But what I did was, I used to have huge stage fear back in school. And I've also went blank on multiple occasions on multiple huge events. So I have had, trust me, there's no other way other than trial and error in this. There's no other way other than facing it. You'll feel those jitters. You'll literally be shaking like hell when you go on stage. But some people just fake it till they make it. Some people just find a way to cope with it. Some people just share it. So because that makes you human, you're a speaker. And I think the thing, if if you say something is a good talk, that's when you appear more human to that person, rather than a perfect person. You get it? Because perfect person is kind of, it's kind of like a fish upon the sky. It's not achievable. But very recently I went through this talk that's on a very simple topic that's called event loop. I think it's from
Okay.
Philip Roberts or something of the sort. It's a it was a video taken 9 years back. But the way he has described the jokes he has cracked, and that's so engrossing. Even if you're sitting there, you cannot just put your mind away. That's how your talk should be. You should appear
So
human.
basically, capture the entire attention of your every
Exactly.
single person in
Try
the
to say
audience.
stories. Everybody is interested in stories. As children, we've been hardwired to listen to stories. So I had those jitters. But when I gave my first talk, it was an internal talk in my college. What I did was I have those jitters. I sometimes have those jitters now as well. When I was giving the talk at GitHub Universe, I still had those jitters, but it's a good thing that I didn't have to stand and walk, so that people can see those jitters. What I did was, I understood that I had jitters. I accepted it. I was like, sometimes saying it out loud also helps. Like, I'm having these jitters right now, so I'll just don't mind if I'm walking around. You get it? So what I did was I started walking around to cope with those jitters. That's when, and also one more thing that helps me is just before the talk, I take a deep breath and I'm like, I'll be able to do it. It's okay. And one more thing that helps me is, what is the worst possible thing that I can happen? People will throw tomatoes at you. No, ये सब नहीं हो रहा है, ठीक है? So people will think bad about you. It's okay, man. It's okay. Just क्या होगा? ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा क्या होगा? Just think about the worst possible situation. Provided they have tomatoes, that's the worst thing that can happen. But they do not have tomatoes and eggs as well, so it's fine. So think about the worst. Okay, I'll go blank. Then, okay, if I go blank, I'll try to focus and start from where I left off, or maybe the last few stuff that I want to talk about. But to be very honest, uh, being truthful and speaking my mind helped. Because what I do as a speaker, whatever, I don't have a script. You get it? Whatever I understand of it, in the beginning I used to have a script. But now that I've been speaking informally, and there are some formal stuff as well, but there are some informal stuff as well. So now I'm able to, if I'm speaking about a certain topic, I'm able to come up with ideas on my own. So I'm just putting that real time data that's coming from my mind. You get it? So I'm just putting that out. So that has helped me. If you want to adhere, some people, earlier I used to have anxiety because I wasn't adhering to the exact script that I have written. Then I'm like, ये script तो मैंने ही लिखा है, इसको मैं change कर सकती हूँ. I am basically the director of my own life. I can change it. So even if I add some extra ideas that is not there in the script, it's fine. So I just made peace with that fact that even if I speak something out of script, that's fine. So some people's script works, some people's script doesn't work, but it should not sound monotonous, and it should not sound like you're reading from a paper when you're actually not. And your voice should not be robotic at all, at all. Like, do everything, but try to make your tone like up down, up down. If you're focusing on something, try to focus, or you get it, like what I'm speaking about is don't say focus, okay? Let me, if you want to highlight something, try to stretch it a bit. Like, suppose if I'm highlighting ways about how to cope with procrastination, that's when you're like, you slow it down a bit. If
Yeah.
you don't want them to highlight it, just speaks fast, something of the sort. There are different techniques in these things. So my experience has been a little bit of a roller coaster ride. I have learned things the hard way, some with trial and error. But basically, I've gotten comfortable with the fact that even if I mess up, nobody's going to throw tomatoes at me, so it's fine.
We have heard you speaking in the meetup.
But this cracking jokes has worked wonders for me. Worked
Yeah.
wonders for me. Trust me, it is. it has now everybody is asking me to go for stand-up comedy. I'm like, I'm not sure if that sort of sense of humor, but maybe I'll try it one day. But even my friends, my personal friends, even if I speak in Hindi as well, uh, they're like, you should try this. You crack a lot of jokes, but cracking jokes while speaking helps a lot because that kind of breaks the monotony, and everybody's like just looking at you, and suddenly they're like, and that's a good way as a speaker for you to judge as well whether people are listening to you or not. If they don't laugh, they're not listening to you. If they laugh, they're listening to you. So, yeah.
That's really insightful. Thank you.
I think you have when you start speaking, you will have your own tips and tricks to give as well. But these are the tricks that has worked for me as well.
Actually, like, I'm a bit confident talking in front of college students, but I still doubt myself. Should I apply for conference or not?
I would say go for it because even then
I will
I
try
gave my
for
first
it.
professional talk that has been in 2019, and I was a student back then. It was for DjangoCon Europe. It was the same. It was about the same topic that I had did my Outreachy internship on. I just came across this opportunity on Twitter, and I was
Yeah.
like, should I apply? Then I reached out to one of my friends, and he gave me positive affirmation. He's like, go for it, go for it, go for it. Don't worry, he was not my boyfriend. He's just friend. And some people think that every guy you're talking about is your boyfriend. They're not. So he's like, go ahead with it. If they're going to reject, that's the worst thing that's going to happen. Go ahead. And I started writing a proposal, like chalking down everything, and I just went ahead with it. I just wrote this proposal, everything that was in my mind. I just described it, and I just ran Grammarly through it. Like use a lot of
Yeah.
Grammarly back then, and then I just sent it out. Then I also appeared for the speaker grant because obviously cannot afford as a student you cannot afford 50,000 rupees one way trip to Denmark. So yeah, so I also applied for the speaker grant. And suddenly I'm like, then it got selected. I'm like, "Ye select na hoga nahi pata." It got selected. Then shit got real. I'm like, oh my god, अब मैं क्या करूं? So that's when I was like, okay, it's okay. You have worked on this project. You have also, described this project to some of your friends. So maybe try writing that. Try making an outline. Okay, this is where I'm gonna start. This is where I'm gonna describe. These are the things that I'm gonna cover. Try to write an outline and try to, approach it in that way. And when I reached there were a lot of professionals. Like, I think I was the only student there, but they were very patient with me. That is the love of open source. Like, that is the force and the power of open source communities. Even if you are the youngest person in the room, they'll still listen to you because you have something to offer. So they were very patient enough to listen to me. And there were people who were very experienced, 10 years, 12 years experienced, but they still had some questions to ask about my talk. So that's when they are listening to you. There were around 400 people in the room, and it was snowing then, and I was like, and that was the first snow I experienced then, and I was like, oh my god, I think I'm it was like my blood was freezing because I was so nervous. But then I decided, maybe go to that talk. I'm kind of embarrassed of my talk.
Yeah, because of your accent. We've had this talk.
Okay. I am very proud of my Indian accent, and it took me some time to realize that this sets me apart from the other speakers. So I've stuck to this accent, but then I didn't stick to that accent. My bad. But we learn from my mistakes. It's been 4 years. It's going to be 5 years now. So I've made peace with the fact that this is maybe one of the most highlighting factors of my talk, my talk career as well. But maybe a good thing to learn as well from that. But I had those jitters, but they were very welcoming, and they didn't challenge me. As a student, I didn't feel challenged or I feel anything less than all the other contributors there. So I felt like one of them. You get it? Like, I was asking questions, they were asking questions, and they very patiently listened to me. I mean, some people were not even moving, they were eating, and they were like, you get it? They were actually listening and concentrating. And some of them are very old. You can see some from their faces, right? And they're like coming and putting their food aside, and then they're listening to you. Then that's when you're like, okay, they're listening to me. So what again, one more thing that helps me is trying to have some eye contact with some of the people, because that is again human. If you're like looking at the wall back and you're speaking like a robot, that doesn't that doesn't make you a good speaker. So yeah, so I would say that any open source conference you're applying to, you'll be very happy to know that they are not as judgmental as you think they are. And if they know you beforehand, maybe they have connected with you um, offline or maybe on Slack, then they are going to be very welcoming. They are going to be like,
Yeah,
they are
because
going
you finally get to meet them.
to
That was really insightful.
but everybody feels those jitters. It's just like how you hide it or how you show it. It's your call.
I will now try once applying for any conference. Thank you.
Yeah.
So, do we have any more questions? Now is your final call. I guess we can wrap up the session then if no one is volunteering up. And even after the whole network with people, they're sort of choosing not to. So, all right.
Don't roast them. No, I would say that try to put yourself out there, as you said, because that is, you never know what sort of opportunities you're missing out on, and you never know, maybe that is going to be your next internship or your next job that you may going to. I have also received a lot of referrals just for the fact that I attended PyCon India in 2019. I
Okay.
was an attendee back then. After that, I kind of became one of the organizers. But I kind of created a very nice connection. And he reached out to me after 5 years and he's like, "Where have you been all this while?" And I'm like, I'm good. Then he's like, "Okay, I have this opening and, do you want to attend?" I'm like, "No, no, I'm not into Python anymore." But yeah, but they are willing, because of the first impression you have made back then. People are willing to reach out to you, and he's like, I think 2 to 3 years older to me. So I mean, he had nothing to lose as well. He's like, "क्यों ये मुझे याद रखेगा 5 साल से?" I have we were in.
That is true.
So if you have created that impression, that person will maybe reach out to you after a few years as well. So don't just reach out just for the sake of, for them to remember you, but also for the sake that you create those connection and maybe, mutually help each other in future.
So I hope everyone keeps this in mind. I know I will because I'll surely be sending my resume back to you.
I'll be more than happy to help you with your resumes. And if you want me to have a review or maybe proofread it, I'm very good at picking typos. By the way, I can pick with just like a Swift. And that has helped me contribute to open source in the beginning a lot, because that was in the beginning it was just typo fixes, and then it kind of and people are surprised at my typo, finding out typos,
Identification.
identification of typo skills.
So the interview I.
No, not really. I would say maybe reading a lot of documentation, I would say. I got better at it because of the fact that I started fixing typos in open source repos.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, just feel free to send, or if you want me to proofread it, you can send your resumes on LinkedIn maybe. I'll try to go ahead with it. But if I see anything related to IGTU, DW, maybe some of you have pending invitations. Maybe, I'm not sure, because but if I see IGTU, DW, I'll presume that you have
IGTU.
and you want me to go through your resume. So I'll do that on priority basis.
So thank you so much for taking out the time, Manaswini. I know I spoke to you that it will be max to max a 45 minutes conversation, and it has sort of stretched out to become like a 2 hour conversation. But we really loved having you here, and it was a really insightful session. Thank you
Thank you.
so
I
much.
hope this was of some help to you, at least some aspects of it.